This video is going to supplement the Livestock Pipeline Workbook sheet section. Um, the pipeline profile you have in there was developed using this profiler, and so I'm going to show you how I came up with the profile in that section of the workbook. So the first thing we got to do is enter all the stations and their relative elevations. And the way I did that was I had to get a topog map of the area, and using ArcMap is what I used. You can use Toolkit. I measured from where the existing well is here to each contour, each major contour I tried to do. So that's, you can see there's all the major contours: 6350, 6400, 6450, so on and so forth. So I measured the pipeline as it went up to the top of this mesa. We're basically pumping from a well to the top of a mesa where there will be a storage tank and a trough. So that's how I got my stationing. So once you have your stationing and the correlating elevations, you're going to enter them here. Start off with station 0, and when you enter 0, the plus and 00 will automatically show up. My next station is 1095, so on and so forth. So those are all my stations. Now I need to have the elevations that pertain to each station. So at the well, the elevation is 6325. Once again, I get that from the topog map. On this topog map, it actually has the exact elevation at that well, 6325. So I entered it there. If you don't have 6325, you'll just have to read the contours. So next to the elevation, I usually put a description. So we'll put existing well. And then I'll enter all my other elevations here. So those are all my elevations. And then if you want to put a descriptor for these shots, they're all just ground shots. Ground elevations, I'll say. So all the shots up to this point are ground elevations, and the last point is a ground elevation, but at the drinker. I'm just going to put new drinker / trough. Normally the profile starts building as you put all these in there. For some reason it's not doing that, so I click save and we'll see a profile here pretty bit. So there's your profile. Now we gotta get our static grade line. So to enter another line, you skip a line between your first inputs. We're gonna start at 0, and we're gonna go to the end. We're gonna go to this elevation right here is 6650. That's the ground. The top of the tank would be static water. So that's, the tank is 10 foot tall, so its elevation needs to be 6660. And then we're ending that. We want this line to be a straight line to the top of the tank. So you're gonna put 2808, and then you're gonna put 6660 again, and it'll create a line all the way across. And there's your hydraulic grade line. Now, most people, what they do after this is they print this, and then they draw all their pertinences, and they label this static grade line. They'll put their hydraulic grade line and label elevations along. Each of these nodes is an elevation that corresponds to your inputs. So for instance, this one says 6400 elevation, and the station is 2207. So it's this input right there. So you can print this and draw by hand and do that, and that's fine and dandy. What I do is a little bit different. I'll go and I'll take a screenshot using the snip tool, and I'll snip from this point all the way to here. And then you can save the snip, or you can just exit out because the image is retained in the background. Then I open a session of a Word session, a new Word session, blank document, and then I go and I do page layout. I change the size to 11 by 17, orientation, landscape, margins 0.5. I right click and I paste because it's saved in the background, that image. So this is my equivalent of printing and drawing, except I just do it in Word. So once I bring in a Word like that, I just use the tools. I use arrows. I use what is it? Insert text box, and I come up with a final product that looks like this. So as you can see, this is just a text box that I entered my elevations, friction loss, ventilation loss, miscellaneous losses. Then I have my static grade line, have all my stationing and the relative elevations, and then I also put the total length of the pipe and the type of pipe and the pressure. So this is what everyone needs to be putting on their profile, whether you do it by hand or whether you do it in Word like this. But the final product that you have in your workbook was developed in Word using that methodology. If you have any questions, feel free to call.